I didn't know I was going first, so I'll do second. So this is a great example of what you get when you do exploratory data analysis, because this is something that fell out of a completely different project I was doing, and it turned out to be pretty cool. Now, when I say baseball's greatest defensive catcher, that is obviously a very broad term. I'm going back to about World War II for my numbers. So essentially, what we're looking at is we're looking at being able to catch base stealers. You know, I realize there's a lot more to defense. There's blocking the plate. There's being able to do a pickoff move to first. There's even, you know, catcher framing counts as defense. But that kind of stuff isn't recorded going back to like 1945 or 1950. So anyway, I figured out how to do a comparison all the way back to 1950 that is in fact quantitative. And if you saw my talk last year, there will be numbers in this one, and there will be a quiz at the end. So there were no numbers last year. I will not claim that this is a scientifically chosen group. There is, in fact, a systematic choice to them in that everybody's heard of all these guys, right? Okay, especially the guy down in the corner, so don't let it bias your Hall of Fame vote here. But anyway, first of all, the percentages that you're seeing are their single season absolute caught stealing percentages. Roy Campanella is considered a god for having the highest caught stealing percentages in history. Although, you know, Yadier's not so bad. But so the criteria that I chose for this was I did take post-World War II, which is basically allows for integration as much as anything. But there is a marked difference between how the game was played, and I didn't want to have the break of World War II in there as well. Like I said, this is not systematic, but I wanted people who had longish careers. I realized that Thurman Munson and Roy Campanella didn't have that long career. I mean, but we're talking 10 years and 12 years. It's good enough. Again, Yadier's only in like his 12th, 13th year, but that's fine. And I'll say now, I did these numbers last summer, so his 2016 numbers are not in there, but I don't think it's going to have a massive effect. I also made a point for these percentages and things like this. There are one or two guys who show up like once in Baseball Reference's top 500 for caught stealing percentage at very high numbers, but it's a statistics of small numbers sort of thing, or it's a fluke year or whatever. So I made sure I was only picking people who showed up multiple times in the top 500 for a single season caught stealing percentage. And so these guys sort of fit all those criteria. And again, with the exception of Thurman Munson and Molina, who wouldn't have been eligible, everybody is now a Hall of Famer, so that helps. Right. So this is just a basic comparison over time of what the caught stealing percentages look like year by year. And hopefully everybody can read those. As you can see, Roy Campanella's up near the top. Everybody sort of drops off a little during their career, although Pudge is all over the place, which I find kind of interesting if you look at his numbers. And then there's Yogi Berra, who has this weird, not so great during the beginning of his career, not so great during the end. One of the things that has come up that I guess I want to point out is Roy Campanella did come over from the Negro Leagues. And so I've had people say, wait a minute, what about his Negro League numbers? Now, I would love his Negro League numbers. You can't get them. I've since done a little bit of research, and he was 24 when he got into the majors. So I don't think there's going to be a huge number of years that will actively contribute. You know, like this will be good enough. So it's not a, you know, it turns out that it's more reasonable than you might expect. So, yeah, I guess that's about it. Again, like I say, Yogi Berra is interesting, but he is still, because he's kind of got a couple high points in there, he does actually still fit into this.
That's one less
his career percentage is
possibility.
substantially lower because of it, but whatever. So here's the thing. You've got the, this is what I wanted. What you end up with is these absolute numbers. And these are just literally, you know, Campanella is, there a laser pointer on this? There we go, laser pointer. Okay. So, you know, Campanella really stands out up here. As, you know, he's in the 60s, like Molina's got like one.
Great. Great.
Thanks. But what you'll notice, and this is what's kind of cool, is this line here, this is the league average of pot stealing percentage from, again, about 19, I think I started the numbers in 1946, 47, going to, this is 2014, I think. And so what you notice is that people in around 1950 were really bad at stealing bases compared to now. So you had a lot more people who were getting picked off, or greater percentage were getting picked off. And so now, you know, at every 3 guys who tries to steal a base, there's every 4 guys who tries to steal a base, 3 of them make it, as opposed to about half back in 1950. So you run into this problem that you see a lot in baseball, which is differences in how the game is played over time. What's cool about this, though, and which is why I feel like I can make a comparison between then and now, is that's practically a straight line. And that never happens in baseball, not over 70 years or whatever we're talking about here. That's outrageous. You know, this is despite the fact that we are going through different eras where, I mean, obviously we're starting with integration, but this is the change in height of the pitchers now. This is with the introduction of the DH. This is interleague, which may or may not have an effect. This is the steroids era. You know, somehow we're still getting linear. I mean, linear approximation looks great. So, so what I thought is, all right, we've got a straight line to compare things to. So instead of doing an absolute caught stealing percentage, a career caught stealing percentage, or single season caught stealing percentage, why don't we look at a relative caught stealing percentage where 1 is essentially, you know, your average catcher, or your, you know, sort of lumped together. And once we start looking at relative caught stealing percentage with respect to what an average catcher does during that season, everything gets shuffled big time and the numbers change dramatically. I should point out, by the way, that these up here are above the minimum. So, like, you know, yes, Molina's got a 220% in here, but I wrote it as 120%, so it's 120% above the average. So suddenly Campanella is above the average. If you remember, it was about 69 for his single season high. Turns out his single season high is pretty close to that, but suddenly Molina goes from having like 61 to having almost double that. And even Rodriguez is basically, you know, out of every 2 guys that tries to steal a base, he's grabbing 1 of them. And so this gets shuffled around. So what's kind of cool with this is I feel like it gives us a insight into what I consider the age-old question, who is better at this, Roy Campanella or Yadier Molina? I believe that is written somewhere in the Old Testament, but I'm not sure. It was, in fact, never answered before. So what does this tell us? Roy Campanella has historically been considered, and I apologize, this is where the fonts get all messed up, has historically been considered the greatest defensive catcher of all time because of the caught stealing percentages. And you can see from the single season that this is entirely true. Interestingly, if you look at the career caught stealing percentage, look who's at the bottom. Yadier Molina. which is nuts. You know, when you think about what we just sort of looked at, when you look at this relative pot stealing percentage, you suddenly get this massive difference between the modern guys and the guys who played further back. And you know, obviously modern is I did my best to do something that was really, really across the board. Another thing that's interesting and that I think makes these like relative pot stealing percentages a little more reasonable is you've got this huge split for absolute between Campanella and Molina here, whereas, and I promise you there is at the bottom here. In fact, he's got a negative pot stealing percentage relative. He actually, his career pot stealing percentage is less than average because of those really big dips at the beginning and the end of his career. But you'll notice that the order of the names here is the same as the order of the names here, which leads me to believe it is a more valid metric. Now that being said, the reason I have all of these up here is because I don't like the idea of throwing out, you know, the absolute versus the relative metrics, because we are talking about different times and different eras. So, this was a short talk. See, we're already at conclusions. So, like I had said, the fact that we have a linear trend enables comparisons. But this is where the quiz comes in, by the way. I'm dead serious. So you see that there's a linear trend which enables this comparison over 70 years, which is awesome, and you almost never see. In fact, please, and that's a great question. Someone can tell me of some other metric that is a legitimate comparison over 70 years. It'd be great. Why is it a straight line? I have no idea. The only thing that comes to mind for me is that fitness and athleticism has been steadily increasing. You know, in general, the guys they're bigger, they're stronger, they work out all season long. You know, back then, back talking 50, some of these guys had jobs in the off season. You know, people didn't spend all their time at the gym. But you know, I don't know if that accounts for everything. You know, it seems weird. But the thing is, a straight line implies a single variable. I guess is where I'm going with this. So, yes, please. I'm open to suggestions. Yes?
Would you think coaching plays a factor? They're coached into better.
Well, that's the thing. Coaching would play a factor. The sabermetrics, in fact, should play a factor starting in the 90s. And one of the things that they discovered was that, in fact, base stealing is really stupid in terms of doing the statistics. That if you steal no bases, you're probably going to do better than if you happen to steal bases. So that's what I mean about there are absolutely decisions that get made that should impact this, and for some reason, it's a straight line. And then the reason that I kept all of the numbers there is this greatest of all time thing. There are multiple interpretations, and so I don't feel there's like a single right answer. The best analogy that I can think of for that is Babe Ruth, or was Babe Ruth, a better home run hitter than Barry Bonds? Now, I would argue that is not actually an answerable question. It is an ill-posed problem to call it that. Yes, Barry Bonds hit an insane number of home runs, but he also did it in an era when everybody hit home runs. When Noah Syndergaard hits home runs. You know, when, damn it, next picture. Bartolo Colon hits home runs. Well, no, the point is he hit one. As opposed to Babe Ruth, who back when he was playing would hit more home runs as an individual than some entire teams. It didn't mean that players weren't capable of hitting home runs. There's a great Ty Cobb story along those lines where he basically said, I can't hit home runs, I just choose not to, and then proved it to the reporter the next weekend by hitting like 3 home runs in a series or something because he just said, oh yeah, I can do it if I want, I just don't like them. So I don't think there is a right answer of the quotes greatest of all time. It just depends on how you choose to do it. Now, in terms of the numbers and the fact that we're looking at pot stealing percentage, I will admit to bias. I'm again, I apologize for the fonts. I do think this says that Molina's better than Campanella. The fact that you have like a factor of 2 difference in their percentages for a single season is just so outrageous that, well, I mean, I don't know about Campanella's catcher framing, but there's a lot of other things that Molina's very, very good at. So, I am sorry, Roy. So, that's basically the talk, and I, would love to hear any questions, but data were from Baseball Reference. Thanks to Chris Long for helping me, grab all of this stuff faster than I could have done without him. And thank you to Keith Law, actually, because it's his fault that I did this. I talk about exploratory data analysis. I actually was heavily involved in his work for a book that he has coming out in April called Smart Baseball, which you should all read. And about the only thing I can tell you about it is there is stuff on catchers in it, hence this study. So, any questions?
Did you consider at all the speed of the runners, their ability, their speed running first base or whatever back then versus now?
I don't actually even know how to get a hold of those data. If somebody has an idea on how I can, short of sitting there and watching video, which by the way, a lot of times if you watch those old films, you'll notice they're all sped up anyway. I'm not sure, again, if there's a way to get that quantifiably, that'd be great. Maybe someone's got scouting reports on, what the home to first base times are, but that's the only thing I can think of. So there's some yeah.
As Molina ages, and I think we even saw it last year, he was not as effective. So that could change numbers, but then Campanella went out at the peak of his career with the car accident.
Actually, if you take a look, Campanella did not go out at the peak of his career.
No.
See this?
Oh, yeah?
He's average. He's very close to average by the end of his career.
Okay.
So, which again surprised me a lot.
Yeah.
Because I tend to think of him as that he should be higher up. And you're right, Molina's numbers are definitely going down. One thing that's interesting is, like I said before, Pudge is all over the place. He has a few years where he's entirely average, and then the next 2 years he's suddenly like way up here, and then he's back to average, and then way up here. So I have no idea. Maybe that's coaching. Who knows? But yeah, his numbers are going to go down, and let me see if I can go back to, as I was saying before, all of these guys go down, pretty much, except, again, for Pudge. And you can see Molina's already starting to kind of trend down, although, again, it's all over the place, as opposed to, I hate to say it, Campanella, that's we can fit kind of a straight line in those last 5 years. But everybody trends down as their career goes on, yes, except for Pudge.
Campanella is pretty well documented as having played for, what, 9 years in the Negro League?
If I can get those data, that would be awesome. Part of the problem.
I mean, without the data, there's records that he was playing 9 or 10 years.
Okay, so he was playing from age
24 when he hit Brooklyn.
Actually, I double checked with the he was 24. So he could have been playing since he was 15. That's entirely possible.
I think
He started when he was 16 or
16. Okay, there you go.
16 or 17.
Okay, so there you go. So yeah, you could absolutely squeeze 9 years in between 16 and 24, depending on how you choose to count. No, you know what I mean. This, depends on where you count the birthdays. If it's 8.5 years, you roll around to 9. That's all I mean. Yes.
So a lot of people you reference there are considered hitting catchers. Well, I'm not sure they're great, but there's guys like Sumner or Boone or Osmus or people like that who are generally regarded as great defensive catchers.
Yeah, I like I said, this was not, that's worth looking into. One thing I can say that I sort of, for kicks, looked into Mike Piazza, who is, partly because he was going to the Hall of Fame last year. And talk about a hitting catcher who had the worst defensive numbers I have ever seen. It was real close between him and Jason Veritek as far as terrible defensive numbers. But yeah, Brad Osmus would be good to look at. Some of the other guys. But a lot of these were, again, like I said, it was not I didn't sort of systematically go through in the way. It could be done, but I It was more to show, basically the linear approximation, we can throw any catcher into this now because we know that straight line exists. Like that's the cool part as far as I'm concerned. Yes?
Has there been any study or thinking about the fact that the importance of stolen base has changed over the years? In other words, a home run is much more important than stolen bases, and factor in that sometimes only the best base stealers steal, and they've kind of cut out
Well, and
many open runners.
again, this is something where understanding that straight line, because yeah, that is absolutely
Very artificial that we've been leading with 20 some steals.
right. And you've got, I mean, again, it's the sabermetrics thing. You know, in Red Moneyball, one of the things that comes out, you know, to talk to these guys too. You know, stolen bases are considered, you know, basically bunts and stolen bases are considered things that you should just not do because the downside is, you know, just doesn't compare. Like, you know, it's going to be worse for the team statistically. So, yeah, I mean, it's entirely valid. I still want to know whether it's a straight line though, because as you know, as we've heard, there's at least a half a dozen things that people are throwing out, and yet somehow we're getting a linear approximation. And the idea of having a half a dozen variables that produce a linear approximation, the scientist in me is going, it doesn't happen. So, yes.
Were you surprised that there wasn't a big dip in the 80s when we had AstroTurf, rabbits on the base paths?
Oh, you mean this quotes big dip here?
Right.
Does that count as a big dip? I mean, that's only a dip of like 2 years.
Did that surprise you though, given it was...
What?
Did it surprise you given that was the era of AstroTurf?
I guess it wouldn't surprise me, but you know, you see the same dip in the 90s, see this big jump here at the end of 2000, you see a bigger, I mean, this dip might actually have to do with the pitchers now. But the point is eventually it comes back up. There's nothing systematic for more than 3 years or 4 years. And again, we're talking, this is 70 years. So it's, again, that's what's cool. It's that, you know, it's not a perfect straight line, but it's not, you know, I would have expected, I mean, with the steroid era, people might have gotten faster, or I don't know, maybe this is the end of the steroid era. And so it's easier to catch guys because they're not as fast. Who knows? But, you know, more data would be cool because I am kind of curious. This is the only one that looks to me like a noticeable blip. It's a little bit right in here. But, again, it's just, I don't know. It's a straight line. It's kind of cool. Yes?
I was just wondering, I think now everyone, you know, agrees that if someone is picked off and then goes to a second base, it winds up being it can, if he beats it there, that's the stolen base. I was just trying to think. I'm dealing more with caught stealing than.
Actually, one thing that might impact this, come to think of it, and that may be where that blip has come in on the, although it actually should maybe go the other way, or is instant replay, I'm sure, is going to affect caught stealing percentages.
Yeah.
When you think about all those guys who are suddenly getting caught that weren't before, because, you know, they go off the bag for, you know, a tiny fraction of a second, and until that rule gets modified slightly, you know, I think it's crazy that every stolen base now gets reviewed. Yes?
Go ahead, Bob. Oh, good. The other thing was, in the old days, were 1-3-6s for outs, were they considered stolen bases or were they pickoffs?
3-6?
Yeah. Has there been the same definition?
No, it wouldn't.
So I was thinking.
No, I mean, when you're talking about a 136 in terms of, in terms of like a double, trying to take out double steel.
No, I'm thinking.
Throws the first and then he throws the second. So he throws the first.
I understand that, but is that with the ball having been hit in play, or is that a genuine pickoff?
No, I'm just saying.
Pickoff, probably.
A pickoff. The pitcher throws, pickoff attempt. The runner knows he's not getting back to first, so he heads off to second and is out. Has that always been classified as a stolen base?
Oh, okay. So what you're talking about is that there's an ethical lead. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Have the rules changed defining a stolen base?
A stolen base is, I mean, I guess I'd have to look at the exact details, but as far as I know, particularly, don't forget, they're caught stealing percentages for catchers. So there's no catcher in your 136 anyway, and so, you know, I'm not sure part of a double play, the second half of a double play would be considered a stolen base.
No.
That doesn't make sense to me. That would be a little bit like, I can see that as being, that you can't have, you know, there's no error on this double play, for instance. You know,
I guess I was just looking at the total stolen bases, which came through the catcher, which is what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And I was looking at possibly other ways of scoring.
Yeah, these are, I mean, that's a legitimate scoring question. That's actually one that because I am a scorer, and so I'd be curious to see how that works. I would suspect it does not count as a stolen base, precisely for sort of the error issue. You know, no errors on those plays. But,
That's a good point. Does that count against the catcher?
yes.
Yeah.
On the thing with the different ups and downs of these catches, have taken effect the pick different pitchers that he's been working with in each year with the better pickoff moves and better at the pitchers are being better. Some pitchers better than others at hold them on base.
I've actually been curious, and this is I haven't done this study, but I am curious to see how a pitcher with a really good pickoff move will affect a catcher. The one that comes to mind for me is Andy Pettit and Jorge Posada. Jorge Posada was not a fabulous defensive catcher, but I'm pretty sure his numbers when he was catching Andy Pettit are going to be very different than his numbers catching anybody else in the starting rotation. Because you're going to have fewer people attempting to steal bases because Pettit's pickoff move was so good. You know, and again, that's just a single example, but some of it is trying to find those pairs to begin with. It's a little bit tough. Yes?
Would you expect stolen base to be a linear park station too? If you see cost ceiling as a linear park station, why would I put stolen base in the same kind of
actually, I did look at stolen base numbers, and one of the problems with this, of course, is that not everything here is a full career. I mean, some of these, like, totally outrageous numbers for Yogi Berra, he was injured, so he only had 8 guys steal against him during the whole season. You know, which is, again, why the long careers are helpful. But, so the numbers seem to vary, and I just look at these anywhere. Average seems to be about 40, 50 attempts, even going back, although it's really anywhere from like 2 to 70 something, you know. But, and that's, in fact, one of the reasons that there are no error bars on this. Normally I love error bars in uncertainties, but if I actually put that on here, this graph would be so messy and look practically meaningless, because, you know, even 70 is still a pretty small number statistically. Especially when you're talking about, this is a percentage of 70, which means maybe it's 35. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you. And again, if you want to talk afterwards, and everybody buy Keith's book because it's awesome. And I guess that's about it.
Okay.